Hi everyone and welcome to a special edition of Lore of the Cards, the series that looks to find the lore hidden within your Hearthstone deck. Why special you ask? Well, today we'll be investigating
Blackrock Mountain, a Hearthstone adventure!
Covering each phase of the adventure on a, fingers crossed, weekly basis. Unlike the Naxxramas adventure that looked at a single raid dungeon within the Warcraft universe, the latest adventure focuses on several dungeons and raids, all centred around one geographic location, the Blackrock Mountain. A towering volcano of charred stone, huge quantities of lava churning within its depths, a mountain created, not naturally formed. It was spawned by one of Azeroth's oldest races, the Dwarves. Within the continent of Dunmaroth, the great dwarven capital Ironforge is located, carved into the very mountains of the land. It was here that the Ironforge dwarves resided, and these dwarves would later split into three clans. The fiery-haired Bronzebeard clan, the Defenders of Ironforge, led by Thane Madaran Bronzebeard. The Wildhammer clan. They knew no fear, the bravest and stupidest of their people that had an affinity with the arts of shamanism and were capable of mounting griffins into battle, armed with their mighty stormhammers. Thane Kardros Wildhammer was their leader. Finally, the Dark Iron clan. Dark-haired and dark-skinned with a natural resistance to heat that were adept in the ways of the mage and the warlock. The sorcerer Thane Thoresen led them from the darkest depths of Ironforge. Despite their differences, these clans were all held together and ruled by the High King of Ironforge, Modimus Anvilmar. Each clan had the utmost respect for the High King, and under his diplomatic rule, while there were tensions between them, they worked together to keep the home of the dwarves secure. However, dwarves are not immortal, and Modimus's body gave way to the ravages of age. Before his eldest son could be crowned king, the tensions between the three clans erupted and civil war broke out amongst the Ironforge dwarves. It is unknown which clan sparked the conflict, but the Bronzebeards and the Wildhammers placed the blame on the Dark Irons, and the Dark Irons accused the Wildhammers. The war was fought all across the frozen continent of Dunmaroth, with the Bronzebeards eventually coming out victorious. This conflict became known as the War of the Three Hammers, but this was merely the first part of this war. The Bronzebeards banished the other two clans from their territory. The Wildhammers travelled further to the east and started afresh, creating their own mountain kingdom, Batol in the wetlands. In the Warcraft expansion Cataclysm, the eastern wetlands would become known as the Twilight Highlands, due to the large amount of Twilight's hammer activity within the area, a cult that prophesied the end of Azeroth. Thoresen led his Dark Iron clan to the Red Ridge Mountains, where they founded the city of Thoresen, named after their leader. Unlike the Wildhammers who sought to begin anew, the Dark Irons wallowed in their humiliation, clinging tightly to the grudge against both the other clans. Several years later, Thoresen would set the second part of the War of the Three Hammers into motion, seeking to gain supreme rule over all the Ironforge dwarves. The sorcerer suspected he could not attack each of the rival clans' capitals one at a time, the paranoid ruler assuming that they would join forces to destroy the Dark Irons. So, Thoresen planned to split his force, surprising both cities and attacking them at the same time. He would lead the assault on Ironforge, and his wife Modgud, also a very talented spellcaster, would attack Batol. Thoresen's forces clashed with the Bronzebeards, desperately seeking to penetrate the bastion that was Ironforge. Despite a valiant effort, the Dark Iron forces had to retreat. Evidently, the years of being Ironforge's protectors had given the Bronzebeards the edge in the battle. Modgud's assault fared a little better, but not by much. Her forces were able to breach the defences of Batol. Modgud used her dark magics to tear Batol apart from the inside out, infecting the halls of the fortress with abhorrent incantations. This allowed her and her Dark Irons to break through the front gates of Batol and attack the very core of the city, Modgud using her magics to further infect its halls. The Wildhammer pushed against the Dark Iron, and their leader Kardros was able to land a mortal blow on Modgud. With this, the Wildhammer were able to drive the Dark Iron attack from their kingdom, but with her death, Modgud's magic spiralled out of control, making Batol uninhabitable. The Wildhammers chased the Dark Irons as they fled back to Red Ridge Mountains, but some fled into the depths of Batol, their queen's magics mutating them into Skardine, which are yet to appear within World of Warcraft officially. It was not just the Wildhammer that pursued the Dark Irons back to their city, but the Bronzebeard too had chased Thoresen back to his home after the attack on Ironforge. Thoresen's gambit had not paid off, and he now desperately sought a way of saving his clan. The only way that Thoresen could snatch victory from the jaws of defeat would be to summon a mighty demon to cut through the armies of his enemies. Thoresen's spell of summoning was so powerful that even he underestimated its potency. Rather than summon a demon, his spell broke the chains of a being who had long been imprisoned in a realm known as the Firelands. Ragnaros, the Fire Lord. The Fire Lord's entry into Azeroth was so forceful it changed the landscape around him. From the point he entered, a tall mountain was created, and the lands surrounding it became known as the Burning Steppes and the Searing Gorge, the earth itself becoming scorched. Thoresen and his city were instantly destroyed, and the Bronzebeards and Wildhammers quickly fled to escape the rage of Ragnaros. The Bronzebeards returning home, and the Wildhammers founding a new home in Airy Peak. The mountain created by Ragnaros' explosive entry into Azeroth is the Blackrock Mountain, and the surviving Dark Irons now serve as his slaves, the Fire Lord seeking a way to return to the Firelands. The Dark Iron Kingdom now lies deep within the Blackrock Mountain. It is their kingdom that is the first wing of the Blackrock Mountain adventure, the Blackrock Depths. The Depths is one of the largest dungeons in World of Warcraft, boasting a massive 19 bosses, 20 if you count the boss added during a seasonal event. Understandably, Blizzard have had to cut down on these for the Hearthstone adventure, focusing on 3 encounters. Who have they chosen, and was there any possible lore significance for choosing them? Let's take a look. There's not much merriment to be had when you're enslaved by a lord of seething fiery rage. If there is any joy to be had in the Blackrock Depths, it would be at the Grim Guzzler, the only bar in the Dark Iron Kingdom. Here is the setting of the first encounter in the wing, facing off against Coran Direbrew. Direbrew has his own personal reasons for despising the other dwarven clans, because of the embarrassment he suffered at the very first annual Brewfest. This celebration of ale is practiced by both Alliance and Horde, the Alliance's main events happening at Ironforge and the Horde's at the Orc capital of Orgrimmar. The first festival held was a competition between the Pandaren Chen's Storm Stout and the Bronzebeard dwarf Grimboo's Thunderbrew. Chen had left his native home in search of adventure, and one of his passions was ale, crafting his own and sampling all the finest beers he could. On his journey, he kept hearing one name, Thunderbrew, so Chen was compelled to seek out the finest brewer in all of Azeroth. Storm Stout found Grimboo's and requested a sample of his drink. Grimboo's agreed, but only if Chen would let him partake in one of his concoctions. The two took a seat and tasted each other's creations. First one cup, and then another, until they could drink no more. At the end of the tasting session, Chen proclaimed that the rumours that he had heard were true. Thunderbrew's ale was a wonderful tasting beverage, better than his own. Grimboo's disagreed and said Chen's was better. After a heated debate of no yours, yours, yours. Grimbooz suggested holding a contest, inviting anyone who wanted to sample their ales to cast their votes for the better beer. This was the first Brewfest. When Corin Direbrew caught wind of the contest, he insisted that he too be allowed to compete. After much of Corin's whining, Thunderbrew agreed to let him join. As the competition went on, Grimbooz and Chen's ales went down a storm, the voting being split evenly between them. It became apparent early on that Direbrew had no chance of winning the contest. Only 2 votes had been cast for his creation, and one of them was his own. He flew into a rage, striking Thunderbrew across the face and then turning to attack Chen. However, Chen is one of the finest monk martial artists in the entire Warcraft universe. He deftly dodged Direbrew's assault and uppercutted him into one of his own booze crates. Humiliated by his low votes and being bettered in combat, Direbrew left the contest practically seething. To this day, he is unable to take criticism, anyone that insults his Direbrew being dealt swift punishment. The last person to do it was fed to a pack of dire boars. The contest continued for many days until Thunderbrew's beer was crowned the winner, Chen's vote sealing the victory for his competitor. The Gordok Ogres now take Direbrew's place at Brewfest. Direbrew never got over his defeat, so now, every year, he sends Dark Iron forces to disrupt both the Alliance and the Horde Brewfests. The Dark Irons tunnel under the festival, surprising the patrons, and need to be fought off. Direbrew himself is a dungeon encounter that can only be done during this yearly event in World of Warcraft, dropping rare items and mounts. After his death, members of the Horde and Alliance were able to taste Direbrew's latest creation. It's a shame he got himself kicked out over his subpar ale, because by all accounts, his final brew was fantastic. In his World of Warcraft encounter, Direbrew literally creates a bar brawl. He starts the fight with 3 henchmen, and as the fight goes on, more and more join the battle. This has been replicated in Hearthstone with his hero ability, Pylon, introducing more and more minions to the field in quick succession. The second encounter of Blackrock Depths is the Arena, which World of Warcraft players will know as the Ring of Law. If the Dark Irons do not feel like a drink at the Grim Guzzler, they can always get some entertainment with some brutal blood sports. This arena acts as a court. For any crimes committed against the Dark Irons by outsiders, the sentence is always death. Judgment is passed by the Lord of the Arena, High Justice Grimstone, always ruling that the death should leave the floor of the Dark Irons arena blood-soaked. To make these spectacles of death all the more glorious, the Dark Irons have been able to collect together creatures from all over Azeroth. The trial is so harsh that it is rumoured no one has survived. In Warcraft, the battle comes in 2 phases. The first phase consists of players taking on creatures from around Azeroth. It's only one fight, but there is a random pool of 6 creatures to draw from. Burrowing thundersnouts, hulking lizards that can shoot lightning from their mouths, distant relatives to the Kodo beasts that Tauren often use as mounts. Borer beetles, giant insects that can quite frequently be seen sifting through the carrion after a particularly bloody battle. Their mandibles are able to pierce through the strongest of armours. The deep stinger scorpid, armoured beasts famed for their aggression and have a venom so potent that it can take a creature down 100 times their size. Dark Screecher bats can use their supersonic screeches to deadly effect, the shock of their blast striking spellcasters dumb. The peculiar Dredgeworm is a foul creature, often found within caves, which is capable of spitting up venom and inflicting their enemies with a disease that weakens both body and mind. The final possibility is the Cave Creeper, a massive tarantula that encases its victims in silk and kills them slowly with poison. If the guilty manage to survive the first wave of mindless creatures, High Justice Grimstone has a group of seasoned gladiators to choose from for a second battle in the arena. The brutish dire troll Grizzle, the shadow magic wielding undead Nerubian Anub Shia, the feral Worgen Eviscerator, the ogre mage Okthor the Breaker, the crystal spider Hedram the Creeper, and finally the enslaved dual wielding Blackrock Orc Gorosh the Dervish. There is actually one more encounter that can be had at this final stage, if the player used the Banner of Provocation. The quest that involved this banner was removed from WoW with the Cataclysm expansion, but if you kept hold of it, you are still able to experience this fight. I sadly never have. Taking on this hidden boss was a part of a quest line to get a particularly strong set of dungeon gear, which is frequently referred to as Tier 0.5 by players. For those that haven't played World of Warcraft, tiered sets of armour are armours that can only be found within raid dungeons. Those that have a full set will often gain extra bonuses. All of Tier 0.5, instead of random drops from bosses, was obtained through quests, and gave your character a cool set of matching armour to wear. The banner summoned the dwarf Theldrin, and he would drop the top piece of Lord Valthalak's amulet, an item needed for the quest to obtain 0.5. Theldrin once belonged to the mercenary company, the Veiled Blade. The Blade were hired by the goblin Gremnik Rizzlesprang to obtain the spellbook of the Drachnoid Lord Valthalak. Not long after the Blade departed on their mission, Gremnik was killed by Valthalak's spectral assassins. Evidently, the Blade did not hear of Gremnik's death, as they continued on to Blackrock Spire. Their mission was a great success, able to sneak through the dragon-filled corridors and pull off an assassination on Valthalak, but as they pried the spellbook from Valthalak's dead fingers, it all went horribly wrong. The ogre necromancer Cormac grabbed the amulet that Valthalak was wearing, which caused the entire party to be driven into a rage. Some told Cormac to put it back, others wanted it for themselves, the raucous argument echoing through the whole of the spire. Eventually, the Blade agreed to split the amulet, letting dice decide the outcome. Theldrin won the top part. When the amulet was split, however, it released the spirit of Valthalak. The ghostly Valthalak summoned a host of his spectral assassins that began butchering the Veiled Blade, who had no choice but to run. Soon after this mess of a mission, the group disbanded, the hostility amongst them being too great. Theldrin travelled to Blackrock Depths to become a gladiator, the top piece of the amulet in his possession, still containing a small portion of Valthalak's soul. Antheon Harmon, another member of the Veiled Blade, discovered that those that held the amulet pieces were being killed off by Valthalak's assassins. When he discovered this, he tried to recover Theldrin's piece to put an end to the curse that plagued those who held the pieces. Theldrin did not take kindly to this, and beat Harmon to an inch of his life for trying to take his treasure. The hot-headed Theldrin has created his own gladiator team within the depths, and those that challenge the Dwarven Fighter will also be challenging another 4 members of his team. Lefty and Rotfang the Rogues, Malgan Longspear the Hunter, Varjashni the Priest, Volida and Snock Blackspine the Mages, Korv the Shaman, and Resnik the Engineer. Those that kill Theldrin obtain his coveted amulet piece. Finally, in Blackrock Depths, Hearthstone players will face off against the Blackrock Emperor. Despite the late Emperor Thoresen destroying their capital and getting his whole clan enslaved by Ragnaros, the Dark Iron still honour the right of succession. Emperor Dagran Thoresen now sits on the throne. While Dagran is Emperor, he is a more than willing servant to Ragnaros, and will proudly state he is the most powerful of the Fire Lord's servants. While this may not be true on an individual basis, Ragnaros' lieutenants like Baron Geddon being physically stronger, the Dark Iron do make up a considerable portion of Ragnaros' forces on Azeroth, and Dagran holds sway over all of them. Dagran rules his people from the very depths of Black Rock, close to the molten core where his master gains in strength. Dagran keeps the halls of the depths filled with his subjects to protect his master, and has sent a few out to try and gain control of the surrounding areas, the Burning Steppes and the Searing Gorge. He has also sent emissaries to the gnomish capital of Gnomeregan to back the crazed self-proclaimed leader, Sicko Thermoplug. The gnome took control of the city after filling it with deadly radiation that killed most of his race, jealous of the ruler of the gnomes, Gelbin Mekatork. Dagran was able to kidnap the daughter of King Magni, king of the Dark Iron's most hated adversaries, the Bronzebeard clan. Dagran in fact ended up marrying Moira Bronzebeard, and with this unlikely union, rumours were abound. Magni accused Dagran of casting a spell on Moira to manipulate his daughter into this union. In actuality, Moira had fallen in love with Dagran. When held captive by Dagran, he gave Moira the respect befitting her position. Despite being from rival clans, he treated her with kindness, and over time affection. The two married, and Moira became pregnant with Dagran's child, heir to both the throne of the Bronzebeards and the Dark Irons. Dagran wields the epic weapon Ironfoe, which he laid claim to after capturing the Alliance hero, the Goldshire Footman. Oh, I'm sorry, Reginald Windsor. The hammer imbues its handler with lightning-quick reflexes, occasionally allowing them to strike another 2 times in quick succession. In lore, just before the Cataclysm expansion, Dagran was slain, a party sent in by Magni killing the Dark Iron Emperor. It was at this point that it was discovered that Moira had not been mind-controlled. With the death of her husband, a fiery rage ignited within Moira's heart towards her lover's killers and her father. So, there you have it, Blackrock Depths. Some of the lore for the first wing of the Blackrock Mountain. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and it's left you as pumped for the first wing as I am. If you've enjoyed this episode, a like, subscribe, and a share would be absolutely amazing. Like the art? All the artists I've been able to find are in the description below, so give them some love. Next time we'll be covering the second wing in this mini-series, the Molten Core. Happy Hearthstoning, and I'll see you next time for more Lore of the Cards.